Life is for the birds. You ever heard that? Life is for the birds? That people say that when they say life stinks or life's no good. But Jesus actually says, look at the birds. What does that mean? Let's talk about that. Yeah, so the idea that life is for the birds, what does that mean? Jesus says, look at the birds. The other day, I was sitting in my backyard. It's a beautiful place just like this, a beautiful day in paradise here in South Florida. And I started looking at a bunch of birds. And the reason Jesus says to look at the birds is because you can learn a lot when you look at birds. Let's talk, I'll just tell you really quick a few birds that I saw. So I looked around, and the first bird that I saw is called a sparrow. Sparrow is a little bird, not that fancy, flies around, doesn't look all great, doesn't look anything special about it. But Jesus mentions sparrows in particular in the Bible. Jesus says, look at the sparrows. They are very inexpensive. You can buy 5 sparrows for 2 pennies, Jesus said. But Jesus said, but you want to know what? Your Father who's in heaven does not forget the sparrows. In other words, those little birds who have no value, but God takes care of them. God knows every single one of them. God makes sure that they have enough to eat, that they have shelter, that they live a good life. And the Bible says, then Jesus goes on to say, and you are worth more than a whole flock of sparrows. So when I look at the sparrows, what do I learn? I learn that I am more valuable than all these little birds. And if God takes care of a little bird, God's going to take care of me. I'm not going to stress it. Another bird I saw flying around, and I heard it first. The bird was called a woodpecker. So woodpeckers, what do? They get on the tree and they start banging. So this woodpecker was special. I thought he was crazy because he was banging not on a tree, he was banging on a metal box. And he did not stop knocking. It was knocking, knocking, knocking. So I know that woodpeckers, they go to trees and they knock on the wood and they get food out of there. And I said, this woodpecker is a little messed up. Why does he keep knocking on a piece of metal that isn't a tree, doesn't have any food? But you know what I learned afterwards? I Googled it. And you know what? Sometimes woodpeckers bang on metal because they want to make a lot of noise, because when they do that, they attract a good mate to their lives. So I looked at the birds and I learned something. What did I learn? When I look at a woodpecker, I learned that you gotta keep knocking. You can just tell yourself that, keep knocking. Don't give up. Keep trying. If you feel like stuff is not working your way, just keep going. Jesus said it. Jesus says when we ask God, we should seek, we should keep seeking, we should knock, we should keep knocking, because when we knock, doors will be open to us. Look at the birds. Another bird that I saw. You know, Louis, I saw another bird, and this bird was pretty cool because this bird came into my field of view. This is my backyard, and this bird was red. It was all red with black highlights. That bird was called a cardinal. Now, when I saw the cardinal, I said, man, this bird just looks cool. This guy was dressed so nice that for a second there, I said, I'd like to be a bird. So when I looked at that bird, what did I learn? I learned that God not only wants to take care of me, but God makes sure that I look good. When I saw that cardinal and how good that cardinal looked, I said, man, God takes good care of those that he loves. So we talked about the sparrows, God takes care of them. Okay, they survive. But when I look at a cardinal all regal, all beautiful, all like, almost like a cartoon he looked, I said, what? God knows how to take care of those. God knows how to take care of his own. God makes them look good. What do we learn from a cardinal? When you do things God's way, when you trust in God, God will not only take care of you, God will make you look good. Looking at the birds. See any birds around here? There's another one over there. What is that one? That thing that looks like a blue jay. I saw a blue jay in my house, and this is another true story. When I saw this blue jay in my house, it had the shape of a blue jay, because I know what blue jays look like, but it didn't really totally look like a blue jay. It had the shape, it had the form, it had a little bit of the blue, but it wasn't totally blue. That blue jay taught me something. I looked it up, so I Googled this also, and I found out that this blue jay was actually an immature blue jay. He was growing up. So when blue jays, as they grow up, as they mature, when they get to full maturity, that's when their plumage or their feathers turn totally blue. So I was looking at this guy, and what I learned is that you can be a blue jay and not be totally mature and not look the way you're supposed to look. What do we learn from that? Your colors are who you are. God wants you to wear those colors like the cardinal, like the blue jay. God wants you to show off the good stuff that he has for you. but you have to seek maturity in your life. You have to find that place where your feathers turn totally blue, where you're dressed completely in what God has for you. You need to shine bright because that's what God has for you. Look at a blue jay, you learn that you gotta mature so you can look good. Another bird, this is actually the state bird of Florida, the mockingbird. We have a lot of mockingbirds in my backyard. And a mockingbird, when I look at them, what you learn from a mockingbird is mockingbirds are continually learning how to sing new songs. Mockingbirds can actually sing like other birds that are out in the wild, because an adult male mockingbird, he's constantly learning new sounds. Sometimes they even start singing like car alarms or like dog barks. Why? Because that's what they do. They are constantly learning. This is what God wants us to do also. God wants us to always be looking to sing a new song. What does that mean? It means when you're down in the dumps, when things are not going right, when stuff is just nasty for you, you start singing that down in the dump song. You start singing the blues. You start singing the defeated song. But God says, I don't want you to sing a loser song. I want you to sing a new song. In the Bible, Psalm 40 is really cool. King David says, you know what? I waited patiently on the Lord, and he turned around, he heard my voice, and he came and he answered me. He lifted me out of the mud. He put my feet on solid ground. He steadied me so I wouldn't fall over. And then he says, and then he gave me a new song to sing. Look at the birds, you learn a lot. Look at a mockingbird and you learn that God wants you to sing a new song. Sing a new song. God wants you to sing a new song and God will change your tune. And the last bird I want to talk to you about, and this was in my backyard, sitting right next to the pool. I had the binoculars, and then in between all the trees I saw out there, there was a spark of orange. And when I looked deep in there, it was a bird called an Oriole. And Orioles are awesome. When I look at the Oriole, first thing I learned is that Oriole grabbed my attention. It was so beautiful. I noticed it. I got excited to see this Oriole. It was colorful and it was special. And this is what God wants you to learn from Orioles, or for Orioles in your life, is God wants you to know that you are special. You are the attention grabbers of God. God's attention grabbers here on earth. God says you are salt, but you are also light. That you were designed to be placed on high in a visible location. So when people look at you, they can see good stuff. They can see beautiful orange feathers, beautiful plumage, and they can say, wow, that bird looks good. I wonder who takes care of that bird. And when you look good, when you grab people's attention, then God looks good because you're advertising for how good God treats you. So I'm going to just wrap this up now. God wants you to look at the birds, learn from them. You can be an Oriole. You can look good. You can look so good that people take notice. All right? So that's my little adventure in bird watching in my backyard. I hope you got something out of this. If you did, you can just press that button there, smash that button that says subscribe. You can like us, you can comment on us, share with us so other people can, we can get this word out to other people. I'm Pastor Abraham, this is The Good Life. Remember, God wants you to look at the birds, not because life is bad, because life is good. When you look at the birds, you learn stuff, and you learn that God has a good life for you.